All right, you guys, welcome back to Becoming Better Daily, where we are becoming better daily, mentally, physically, spiritually. Today, I have a topic I want to talk about. It's going to be very interesting. I want to share this with you guys. And I want to preference this, or I want to bring this up because, it's a new year, and I do believe that God is doing some great things in our life. And so it could be very tempting, especially with social media, to want to, share. I don't know. You could show, let me know down below if y'all been through this. When God just does something great for you, you just want to share. Or we get into this culture where there's social media, and so we want to put everything out there, right? And so it could be very tempting because we want people to know what's going on in our life, because we want to show that God is working in our life. But I was reminded today of First Thessalonians 4:11, and so I want to talk about that, where God leads us to live a quiet life. Okay. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because one thing that I do know is that people do pay attention more than we believe, right? And so even the Bible talks about this, that people decide if they want to become a believer, or they want to follow Jesus Christ based on or Christianity based on how it's working for other people. So it's the same thing. As I've used this example before. I had a friend one time where he was like, I wanted to start working in a business, and so I told him, like, hey, I want to start this business. And he was like, hey, look, if it works for you, let me know, and then later I'll come back and I'll join too. And so he basically was counting on the way that I was living, on the way that it worked for me, to decide if it was going to be something for him. And a lot of times that's really what other people do too. That's when they decide if they want to be a Christian or not. And if you ask a lot of people, like, hey, if they're not Christian, you ask them why not. A lot of times they'll say it's because of the way someone lived their lifestyle. And so today I wanted to go into the scripture and say and go into what how God actually called us to live. So, like I said, I'm coming out of First Thessalonians 4:11, and I think it's where Paul was talking to the believers or the Christians after Jesus Christ died, and he's just giving them instructions on how they should live. And so here's what he said right here. We're just gonna get into it, and then um we'll go from here. So, oh, I didn't click it. All right, so it says here, and of course, we have many different versions, but my teacher just showed me this one recently, and I really like it. The AMPC. It just breaks it down with more synonyms, and synonyms are just the same word. So if it was the word happy, then that means that they might use the word joyful or exuberated. I don't know, just different words, but it means the same thing. It just brings a little more context. And so in the AMPC translation, it says, to make it your own ambition and definitely endeavor to live quietly and peacefully, to mind your own affairs and to work with your hands as we charged you. And so this is what we are called to do. We're called to make this our ambition. You know how sometimes we are so passionate or ambitious about other things. This is what we should truly be ambitious about, and this is to live quietly. And so this goes totally against social media. This goes totally against the world and kind of how they say we should live, right? Because at this point we have Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. It's all of these different things, and where we can show everybody how great our life is. And if you notice, the less we get away from living a quiet life, the more people get into depression and people get off track. And you say why? I'm gonna pause this for real quick, and we'll go talk. Let me see. Oh, stop sharing. And you say why? And I believe it's because too many of us are not living quiet lives, and too many of us are not living focused on our own thing. It says to mind our own business, but we literally live in a world right now where people are not minding their own business. We are literally on social media all day, seeing how somebody else is living, and then we're comparing our life and saying, "Hey, this person," for example, I could be like, I'm 31, I don't have no kids, and I'm not married, but all my peers are getting married. And before you know it, your joy gets taken away. But the thing is that God called us to just live quietly. And then another, I don't remember this one off the top of my head, so I don't want to go off of it, but we're called to not covet, right? That means that to be jealous, to want the things of what someone else has, but all day long in the society that we live in, that is what's happening to us. And so I just want to call us or talk to us about that today, that as God blesses us to stay humble, not saying, and how do we stay humble? Because it says in the Bible that we boast in the Lord. So I'm not saying don't share your accomplishments this year. I'm not telling you to, live a silent life, but I am encouraging us to live a quiet life too, to share when it needs to be shared, and to share because we're glorifying God. The moment that we glorify ourselves and say, I did this, I did that, which I've been guilty of doing too, of being like, you know what, I did this year, I did that, I did this, but we are not called to do that. We are called to be quiet, to live quiet. Nowhere in the Bible does it say for us to boast about the lifestyle that we're living. And you know people see the lifestyle you're living. You don't have to tell people. People can see the fruits by what you have. And so just like we can see the fruits of what someone has. And it's so interesting, right? I was reading this thing the other day. Well, for you who don't know, I'm originally from Connecticut. And so Connecticut is like an hour away from New York. And so when I was living in Connecticut just a couple months ago, it was this point where I used to go to New York every night, right? And every night I would go to New York, every other night, and I would just walk the city, walk the city, walk the city. I would listen to podcasts, just kind of clear my head. But you know what was so interesting? I'm about to look it up right now. Let me see, how many millionaires live in New York? Let me see. Live in New York. Let's see. So, because I think it said this was one of the highest states of people filled with millionaires, right? But my point is, there's a bunch of millionaires living in New York, but you could walk by them every day and you wouldn't know, unless you were in their inner circle. And the reason why is because they live a quiet life. And so, the moment we start to boast, the moment we start to take that glory from God and try to place it in our own hands and our own title, is right before the fall, because it says that when we get our egos in a way, I don't want to misquote it, but it just says, what is it? Why is it not coming to me right now? It's just basically when our ego gets in the way, when we care more about what we're doing, that pride comes right before the fall. That's what it is. Pride comes right before the fall. So the moment we get prideful is the moment that we're in danger zone. And so I know God is blessing us. There's a lot of great things going on that are going to happen in 2025. But this is just a reminder to live that quiet life, and that you don't have to speak for the fruit. How many trees have you walked by in your life? And did you have to wonder if that tree was bearing fruit? No, because you can literally look on the ground and see the fruit. You can look on the tree and see the fruit in the right season. And so trust that as you're in the right season, people will see your fruit. And we don't have any credit to take for that fruit, understanding that all the fruit that we bear is because we were attached to God, right? It says that those who remain in God will produce fruit. And so that's why we're producing fruit. And so we cannot be like, look at these strawberries or look at these apples I'm producing, because truthfully, we are not the one producing it. And we are just the tree being used to produce. And so I just wanted to remind you guys of that. And it was funny because today, I was like, dang, I do feel a little convicted, because it's like, dang, that feels like I'm lying, but I'm just joking, God. So I don't know. I got to pray about this one. But I put on my Facebook, I changed my employee to McDonald's, right? Just to knock myself off the pedestal on the Facebook app and for my friends, because over the last couple years, God has allowed me to experience great jobs, great positions. And so people will be like, oh, that's how you got that. But I worked at McDonald's just to say, like, hey, anybody could go back. Anybody could go. What they will call the bottom, but I think it's just a restart or whatever it is. But I don't really work at McDonald's. But it's just interesting to see how when we show the world certain things, they gravitate. And another thing I want to say about when we live a quiet life: when you live a quiet life, you actually keep the wrong people away from you. You keep the wrong energy away from you. The moment that we start to brag, the moment that we go into the space of like, I got this, I have that. It's like Deion Sanders said, oh, this is good, because I just think about this. Deion Sanders was talking about, I don't know if you guys seen this or it's trending, and he made this song back in the day called Must Be the Money. And he was just basically explaining behind the song, saying that when he started to be elevated, when he started to make that the money and get into sports, that he found people wanted to hang out with him who never wanted to hang out with him before. People were connected to him, connecting themselves to him that weren't before. And so sometimes when we live that loud life, we attract the wrong kind of people. And so just trust and believe that as you produce those fruits, the right people are going to see it, and that you don't have to boast. And so I just hope that this reminds us, because this is going to be a year that God is going to bless us. This is going to be a year that God is elevating us. And I'm not just talking about physical blessings, but yes, physical blessings are also going to happen. And the reason why I want to talk about that too is because God doesn't want his people to be poor and not have anything. If he's the father of all things, he wants us to have stuff too. But we just got to remain humble, and stay at his feet. And so that's my prayer for myself. That's my prayer for all of us as we go forward this year, that as God elevates us, that we stay at his feet, and that we live a quiet life, that we don't get flashy, that we don't start, feeling ourselves too much, because we remember who and why we are here. So I hope you, let me see, I want to go back over that. So I hope you guys lock this in. First Thessalonians 4:11, and what it say? To make it your ambition indefinitely endeavor to live quietly and peacefully, to mind your own affairs. That means don't worry about what everybody else is doing. To work with your hands. We are going to go to work. We are going to do something with whatever God put in your hands to do, because that's what we are called to do. That's what we were commanded to do. So as God blesses you, move Christ like, move like Jesus, and the last thing I'll leave you with is we can see this multiple times as Christ elevated. You can see with David was blessed. He was crowned king, and after that, David didn't start going outside and telling everybody, I'm king, or he didn't start telling his siblings, like, you peasants, you guys are below me. He had to keep it humble. Another one, Joseph, his brothers literally threw him in the pit, left him for dead, and God allowed him to rise. But when the time came for him to serve his siblings, he still served his siblings. He could have really just been like, I'm not giving you guys anything. But during the famine, he still had to be humble, he had to live a respectful and quiet life, and still help the ones who meant harm for him. And so be ready for that. Sometimes we talk about the blessing, but along with the blessing comes humility. That's what we're called to do. And I know that sometimes I want to definitely remind us of this. Sometimes we could be like, when we make it, oh, this person said that, this person said this person said that. But I want to show y'all one more scripture that just came up to my head, in my head right now, to share with y'all. Hold on. I got it. So the last scripture, and this one really hit me a couple years ago, especially when I was going through a hard time with, people who just was unkind for no reason. It says, this is Romans 12, chapter 12, verses 20 to 21. It says, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him a drink. For in doing so, you will heap coals of fire on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So as God is elevating you, and some people may come back for help, or some people may want to know how you do it, still help them. Still, if somebody needs something, still help them. Now, I'm not telling you to let people abuse you, but still have the heart of Christ. Even for the people who couldn't see the dream when it was taken off, but you get to the point you do, you still need to show love, because that's what we are called to do. This is for our own enemies. And so I know I've been, seeing a lot of people like, hey, they hating on you. And yes, they could be hating on you. Yes, they are an enemy. But the only way that some people are going to know Christ is that even in those times where people have done us wrong, you still show up, because it ain't that like God. How many times have we done something wrong? How many times, y'all? My camera's over here. You did something that God should not have forgiven you about, but he still did. And that's the mercy that we must give to other people. So remember this year, live quiet, because that's what we call to do. Don't mind your business. Don't worry about what's going on with other people. And if your enemies do you wrong, still do them right, because that is a true Christ-like heart. And so I just wanted to drop this video, because I know we going into a good year. I know this is going to be the year, what they say, thrive 2025. I know we're going to thrive, you all, but we are not called to thrive and then doo-doo and boo-boo on other people because we're thriving. In that thriving, we're made to take that thriving and still act out of a Christ-like heart. And so whatever that looks like for you, let me know. So you guys, like, comment, share, subscribe. We're growing together. We're becoming better daily. And I know it's not easy, like Mike Jones said, back then they didn't want me, now I'm hot, they all on me. But even when they are, and I'm not talking about in a flesh way, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who denied you and now they want to know how you did it, or they want to know where you're going. You still got to be kind to them. You still got to be respectful to them. You don't have to be their best friend, but if you can help them in an honest, true way, that's a true ultimate respect. That's a true ultimate example of Christ, because he didn't have to help us. He didn't have to die on the cross for us. They could have just wiped humanity and just made something new. We didn't even have to make humans again. So I hope this video was helpful, y'all. And like, comment, share, subscribe, and peace out, you guys. I love y'all.